Meeker, with Bobs and Barnes a step behind, marched to the hotel, entered through the double front doors, and strolled over to the main desk. When no one walked up to greet her, Meeker spun the register around and studied the names. Peggy Brown had signed in last night at 10:14 and had been assigned room 202. Meeker spun the register back into position and walked across the small lobby to the stairs. 15 steps up, followed by a dozen more to the right, placed her at her objective. Barnes and Bobs had just arrived when the leader rapped on the door. There was no reply. "Do you think she's in?" Barnes asked. "Only one way to find out," Meeker suggested. "Becca, you got your tools?" Pulling a purse from her shoulder, the blonde opened it and leaned close to the door. She was just about to start picking the lock when Barnes reached down, twisted the knob, and the door opened. "Guess I should have thought of that first," Meeker mumbled as she pushed on the door and stepped in. The room was a mess. The bed was unmade, a lamp was overturned, and clothes were thrown everywhere. The disorder paled when compared to what was resting in the midst of it all. On the floor at the foot of the bed was a woman. She was a fair-skinned redhead, dressed in a nightgown, slightly built and appeared to be about 30. She was also very dead. "Lead poisoning," Barnes grimly noted after closing the door and strolling to where the body lay. "Likely all the shooter needed was one round," Bobs added. "The bullet entered just above her right eye." As Meeker stepped around the body and glanced into the connecting bath, Barnes observed. Whoever killed her was looking for something. They tore everything up. "As there are little girls' clothes everywhere," Bobs tossed down, "I think we found Angela's mother, and this story doesn't have a happy ending." Walking back into the room from the bath, Meeker's dark blue eyes locked onto something the other two had not seen. On the far side of the bed was another woman. This one held a gun in her hands. "The murder weapon was a .38, Meeker explained. "It was likely fired by a woman in her 50s. Bob shook her head in amazement. "How do you know that?" "Because I'm looking at her," came the response. "We've not only found Angela's mother, but we found the general's wife." As Meeker studied the limp form sprawled on the floor, Bobs climbed over the disheveled bed and grabbed Gertrude Root's wrist. A few seconds later, she looked back to Meeker and noted, "Her pulse is strong. She might have been drugged or hit in the head in the struggle. Doesn't appear to be anything serious." Meeker frowned. This should have been so simple. All they were supposed to do was track down a wandering wife, and now they were dealing with a murder and what looked like a robbery. Worst of all, for the time being, they were going to have to cover it all up.